difficult it was for Dred and Harriet, and not only Dred and Harriet, but their two daughters, Eliza and Lizzie. When you think about it, the girls lived, well, I'm sorry, one girl lived through the Civil War, as did Harriet, and she also, we found out, lived to be 99 years old. So her whole life, she was born the year that they filed for their original suit. And so her whole life was hide, be afraid, don't talk, be quiet. And I think that that kind of passed down through the family, but I'm glad to say we don't have to do that anymore. So now I talk about it all the time to anybody about it. So I did that, I studied it, and then 2000 came and I realized it would be an anniversary, a very important anniversary. And one thing led to another. I just didn't want to sit back and hear it on the news, because God is good and He has gifted us to do too many things to not be a part of it. And it is my family heritage, but I share that with all of you, because when we talk, it's our story, not the Black history, or it's our history. So I do share that. So I guess around 2003, I have a great affiliation with the National Park Service. And one of the rangers there, who is a board member of mine now, he was always on me like, we got to do something for this anniversary. We have to do something. I said, okay, we got 5 years. We got 5 years. I will, I promise I will. But it got closer, and finally we did. And the Lord just opened the floodgates, if you will, because in essence, we were able to have originally 40, and then 60 groups here in St. Louis, primarily, mostly St. Louis, come together as Friends of Dred Scott. And as Friends of Dred Scott, each of those individuals and mostly organizations agreed to do something to help commemorate the anniversary. So those of you who might recall and who were here would know that for the whole year of 2007 and 2008, many art activities or exhibits or all kinds of things were brought forward for the first time. And I'm happy to say that at the old courthouse, which you already know that that's where they started their case, and I agreed not to give the history because I know I'm talking to a literate people here on this story. But that is where we started with the old courthouse. And they did not have anything there to see Dred and Harriet, except when you first come in, there was like a black, I don't know, like plexiglass etching of them, and then you'd have to go upstairs to the second floor and look around the rotunda to see the panels that told the story. But in 2006, they agreed to put 2 exhibit halls in the front of the courthouse, and it was fabulous. And not only that, the History Channel came and did a 17, 18-minute video on the Dred Scott story. And again, with all humility, I'd say I had the opportunity to be in that video. So when you go downtown, you'll see it. Go to the little theater room, and every 30 minutes, they will play that all day long. So the old courthouse certainly did much, and Washington University had an exceptional symposium. And that brings me to something I want to be sure to share with you. That the symposium was done by Dr. David Koenig from Washington University, another dear friend and a board member. And Dr. Koenig went to the dean of the law school and said, I think we need to do a symposium for Dred Scott. And he said, you'll never make it. You can't do it. You don't have time. You don't have money. David said, I can do it. And he did. And he brought in all of the scholars on the Dred Scott decision, like Paul Winkleman and many others. But also the Missouri Supreme Court was here. Every one of them came to participate. And oddly enough, the only one that could not make it was Ronnie White. And he had something to do ahead of time. But it was a wonderful 2 to 3 day symposium. And from that, many things, and from that time, many things have been written about Dred and Harriet that are new and with new information that has been discovered. I would just like to share with you a few of the books that have been written. We do have one of our distinguished authors in the room, and I knew all of her, Ms. Ruth Ann Hager. And Ruth Ann found Harriet's burial place in Greenwood Cemetery. And I don't have time to tell the whole story, but she called me at work one day, and the rest is history, shall we say. And so from that, she wrote Dred and Harriet Scott, Their Family Story, which is just a phenomenal book that we collaborated on. She did all the hard work. I'm not going to take any credit for that. But we approved it, we consulted with her, and I gave her permission to talk to my 80-year-old aunt up in Chicago, who was the last surviving member of my grandmother's children. And it just turned out fabulously. But along with her book, also a book called I, Dred Scott came out by Sheila Moses. I think it had come out a couple years before, and it's more of a children's book in dialect. Also, Lee Vanderbilt, a professor at Iowa University, wrote a book called Mrs. Dred Scott, very thick 500-page book with a lot of footnotes. She scoured and tried to find everything she could about Harriet, and has a premise that Harriet was probably the brains behind, or the push behind, the freedom suits. I have reservations about how much of that is really true, but I agree that Harriet certainly was very much for it. And another book that came out is the Dred Scott case, and I figured out a way to remember this because it's a long title. Historical and Contemporary Perspectives on Race and Law by Dr. David Koenig, also Paul Finkelman and Chris Bracey. Now what they did was they compiled all of the Washington University Symposium speakers' talks into a book, and it's fabulous. So that was another nice one that came out.